I've got the cordless mic. Can you all hear me? Is this thing on? Okay, cool. So thank you, Jelena, for that introduction. Yes, as of 2.5 months ago, I'm now no longer the king of pops, as I was known for quite some time and just doing this freelance work. But today I'm going to be talking about symmetry, and I love that theme, and it just really reminded me of things back from my childhood of being in art class or math class doing some of these fun projects. But I did have to do some digging deep. I'm like, what can I possibly talk about for 20 minutes on symmetry? So I did the classic Googling, like, what is symmetry? And one of the very first things that popped up was this website that looked like it was made in 1999 called mathisfun.com. Plus there was a dog on it, so I was like, yeah, that's my #1 source. No need to do any more research. But I also like the very simple description. You know, the simplest type of symmetry is reflection or mirror symmetry. And there's other types. There's rotational, so that's if you take something and rotate it over 180 degrees, then the symmetry remains the same. There's other things like translational and helica symmetry and all kinds of stuff. And I started thinking about, well, there's symmetry everywhere. I started seeing it everywhere. One of those things where once you're aware of it, you see it constantly. It's in nature, it's in our design, it's, you know, this dog's face, my face, you know, buildings, things like that. And I started thinking about other things like, I don't know, I thought snowflakes were cool. I remember, you know, doing that project. And so that is something that's very small but very symmetrical. And actually what I loved about the snowflakes, as I did some research, there's a great video on PBS on YouTube that they made. The very first guy to take a photograph of a snowflake was a guy named Wilson Bentley in the 1800s, and he was up in Vermont. He'd take this feather, because it was snowing all the time, kind of pluck a snowflake, put it underneath this big camera from back in the day, and photograph it. And apparently he did that for like 50 straight years. And nothing else. I mean, the way they said is like, yeah, he never moved. He never lived out of his mom's parents' house. He just took photographs. And from that was where, like, oh, you know, all snowflakes are unique. We're all kind of unique individuals. Because he had that. He had 50 years worth of snowflakes to look at. But the creation of it, you know, a snowflake is made in very chaotic conditions. It's made in, you know, water particles or moisture molecules. And, you know, might not seem like distressed, you know, winds, but when you're that tiny, a small breeze is going to be very chaotic. But they're all colliding, and they form these very beautiful, very symmetrical objects, and they're all unique and individual and all those cool, crazy things. And then I started thinking more on the big scale. What's like the biggest thing I can think of? And this is our galaxy. We live somewhere in here. This is the Milky Way Galaxy. It's spiral. It's got, you could say, maybe reflective symmetry or even rotational. And just a little bit of science refresher, from like the bottom to here to the top is 100,000 light years apart. And light, as you may remember, travels about 186,000 miles per second. So it can go around the whole circumference of the Earth 7.5 times in 1 second. So it's very, very, very fast. So this is something to me that's unfathomably large, our galaxy and then, you know, the universe itself. But it's still symmetrical, and it got me thinking, like, what's causing all this symmetry? And two things came to mind. One was that it's bringing in order from chaos. You know, what was once a bunch of random stuff now has order and now has beauty. And then the second thing is that everything is connected in some way. You know, I'm no physicist. I don't know why this would be, or why you know, something as small as a snowflake that could, why wouldn't it just be a random design of just a bunch of cool crystallizations? But it comes out often as a symmetrical piece. So it's those two things that I'm really going to have the theme on today. So let me set this down. That's the last slide. I'm not a very visual person sometimes, and I like to talk with my hands as well. So let me take it back a little bit to 2012. And it was the day before my very first day out in the cart. I'd spent about 8-10 months planning King of Pops while being a teacher. And I was driving back from Charleston, South Carolina, picked up the pop cart. I'm riding back. I'm like, this is happening. You know, I'm about to do this. All this time and planning and talking about it is coming true tomorrow. And I started thinking about it. I'm like, well, I'm feeling a little nervous, and I'm actually feeling a little bit scared. And I started doing like the worst thing you can do. I wasn't very emotionally aware at the time, and I'm still learning. But I started judging myself for not feeling excited. I was like, I should be feeling like a kid, Christmas Eve. Tomorrow's like the first day of literally living out this dream that I had. So I started judging myself for not feeling certain ways, for feeling negative things, and started just doubting myself. And just had this kind of thing. I'm in the car by myself. I'm like freaking out. And called a friend up. He had some nice words to say, and sort of settled down. And through that first year, especially, those kind of feelings actually increased a lot. It was a lot of chaos. It was a lot of stress. It was a lot of anxiety going on, primarily like within my head, within my own being. And I wasn't eating well. I was way too anxious or stressed to get breakfast in the morning. I wake up like, I gotta go. I'm skipping breakfast, grab my coffee, go and start making pops in the morning, because in the afternoon I had to go out and sell them. And then often, because I'm tasting the stuff, trying out these flavors, eating a lot of sugar, I'd skip meals, wouldn't eat till like 9, 10 p.m. when I got off work. So just not doing well physically, and still feeling like kind of like unworthy, like imposter syndrome type of thing, like, someone's gonna figure out that like I don't deserve to be here. Someone's gonna figure out that I don't know what I'm doing, and that I am afraid like daily, and that I am anxious and scared all the time. And I mean, has anyone ever felt something like imposter syndrome? Look around like that. I mean, to me, like that's an amazing thing that it was a lesson that I did learn, but at the time I was like, I was even too afraid to even talk about what I was feeling. I was even too afraid to talk about that fact that I was afraid. And as the year went on, I started making these connections with people and started realizing, like, kind of coming out of my bubble a little bit. But, and it'd be random things that might spark a little bit of inspiration in me. I remember driving around, I still listen to Pandora, but Wu-Tang Clan radio, and a track by Gangstar came on, and I'm kind of going along with it. And there was a line in there that really inspired me and still does to this day. He says, sometimes you got to dig deep when problems come near. Don't fear, things get severe for everybody, everywhere. And I'm like in my car kind of going along and like ugly crying because it just like hits me, in that way I couldn't even finish it. But I was like, there's something there. There's something about feeling connected with other people, knowing that other people go through similar struggles. So later that year, it was about October, we got burglarized 3 times within about a 5-week period of time. And this was end of the year of 2013. That was like the first official year. 2012, we didn't have our Scott's Edition space. And I remember walking up on a Monday, getting to the shop, and like, something's not right. And I get to the door, and it was like mostly closed, but the doorknob was gone. It was like a big hole, like somebody kicked through it. And I go in, like the drawers are all open, there's stuff scattered. I didn't have a lot of cash in there, thank God. They took an old laptop. I was like, this is just bizarre. And it wasn't an icky feeling, being violated, someone coming in, like someone was in the space without my knowledge, permission. So police came, got the name of a door guy. He came out, fixed my door, or not fixed it, just got me a new one. It was nice. And then a week later, I walk up, exact same thing. And I was like, this is weird. Like, this is like getting struck by lightning, twice. And my rationale was like, well, it happened twice, so that means it's never going to happen again, because I've got my quota has been filled of how many times I can get broken into. And just dealt with it, whatever. And then it was about 3-4-ish weeks later, I walk up and same thing. I'm like, this is absurd. Like, what is going on here? And we did have an alarm, but that doesn't stop someone. They ended up catching someone who was very related to the thing. Not all there, so it didn't matter that the alarm was screeching. He still kicked through the door. But I'm like, all right, this is just funny at this point. Let me call the police. I basically had it on speed dial. I'm on the first name basis with the door guy. Yo, Wayne, another job for you, man. I need a new door. Ready to give you my money again. And hopefully, he took a great vacation with all the money I was giving him. So. But as I got that lined up and the detective's in there, that becomes like a kind of crime scene. I'm walking outside, and I'm still kind of like laughing it off. But get outside, and I just started feeling like kind of weak, like kind of like I was falling. And my knees started to buckle. And I was like, what's going on? Like, I just need to sit down. So I sit down on the curb and just kind of put my hands like that and I don't know, that's just how I feel at the time. And whatever kind of barrier I'd put up to kind of mask my emotions or not deal with them or, being too afraid to even talk about it, just all like let loose. It was a flood of emotion. And there's actually a lot of negative stuff in there. I started thinking things like, what's the point? What's the point of doing this when someone can break in and take or destroy what I've made? I've spent this whole year working it, another year planning it, and we're hanging on by a thread financially, and someone destroys it. If something goes wrong, like we're done, we're out of business, and there goes that. And then I look like an idiot. All the people who were like, popsicle business, that's stupid. So I'm sitting there thinking like, there's no point to doing this. There's no point to doing all that. And I mean, that was the moment I was like, I'm just quitting. Like, I'm just not going to do anything. I'm going to be a bum maybe. And then after just all the possible negative thoughts that went through my head stopped from one thought that was a very positive thing. And then it was kind of a logical conclusion. It was like, well, why not build something that's indestructible? And that resonated with me. And that made me feel peaceful. I felt calm, and I sat there with no thoughts in my head, nothing, just this feeling came over me. And I knew it to be true. Well, my next thought was, like, how the fuck do I do that? Make something indestructible, like there's everything. Let me just bash this computer right here, destroy it. But again, the truth of it had sat with me, and I knew it. So it didn't take me that long sitting on that curb to think, well, I'm that indestructible thing. You could take away everything that I've got, but I still have my mind. I still have my skills, my knowledge, all these things, and I can start over. So let me start working on myself to improve myself. And then even one step further, that it's not even just about me, it's about my impact that I can have on other people. It's a way that, how can I connect with people and, maybe doing some great things with, doing some charity work, volunteer, whatever, but even like every single day, if I'm going into a local coffee shop, I want that to be a great interaction when I talk to someone, or just saying hello and being genuine. Because I'd come from a time where I was smiling and I didn't feel it on the inside. I was feeling very chaotic. I was feeling distracted, so I'd bring that negative energy out into the world. And so that became sort of a way to focus my thoughts and how I'm going to act. And, not like everything changed. I didn't become this Zen monk, but that helped me stay focused and stay guided. And it's funny, years later, which 2 months ago was kind of the end of it all, but as I was leading up to my last day with King of Pops, I started thinking about what's my last day going to feel like? Something I've got blood, sweat, and tears, and this has been my identity. And I get to that day, and I wake up, and it's actually like, I feel kind of the same as I did yesterday or a week ago. And it was actually almost the same as when I had first started, that day before when I kind of had that freak out. But instead, I was more energized, like, all right, like bring it on. I'm ready for this. I have tools at my disposal that's going to help me deal with the chaos that I know that is coming. There is struggles ahead of me, but I'm ready for it this time. And again, not perfect by any means, and still working on myself. And this lesson came to me like in mid-December. I was about a week or so going on. I was like, man, I'm just feeling like, again, that imposter syndrome, that kind of like down on yourself. What am I doing? And that persisted for days. And once you're in it, you don't realize it. But then someone had posted something on Facebook, just something very casual. Hey, I'm something asking for help. So I was like, I'm just going to take a few minutes and really think out of a thoughtful response to this. And it's so inconsequential. And I'm almost like embarrassed to like mention it because it was like, man, I was 34. That was not long ago. Like I should have realized this lesson years and years ago. And I think it was always there, but I wasn't. It was going from here to the flip side, where after I wrote just some simple thing, hey, here's how I can be helpful. I was like, I actually feel pretty good now. Like it was a crazy thing. I was like trying to feel that like negative thing that I'd been feeling the past week. I'm like, well, where'd it go? Like that's real. What, this is strange. It was going from 0 to 100, or going from chaos to order. I'm like, I just now see things clearly. It's like, well, just doing something nice for someone else. It doesn't matter what's going on in here. It's what can I do for that other person. And that was a great lesson for me, because it just made me realize like there are ways that you can create order. You can create out of chaos. And chaos isn't necessarily a messy desk. It's what's going on up between your ears. And so, I think about that, and I think about the fact that we are all connected. A lot of us, maybe everyone, I didn't count, raised our hands on that imposter syndrome. And I wish I had known that years and years ago, that we often connect on similarities. Hey, you went to University of Georgia, me too. We're friends. You like Wu-Tang Clan, me too. But we don't often say, yeah, you've been through some struggles before, so have I. In a lot of ways, those how you get those deeper connections. So just a different way to connect with people. So think about ways, what's going on in your life that is chaotic right now. We've all got these struggles and they never end, but I think where the creativity comes from is, how do you deal with that? What do you do to create that order? What do you do to create that peace in your mind, or just maybe as simple as cleaning your desk, cleaning your room, or organizing something? And so, that can be from a to-do list. You're feeling overwhelmed with work. I got a million things to do. Write a to-do list, or I'm going to commit to doing these things, or sending that email that you've been meaning to do. And I want to just challenge y'all right now, like, is there something that you could do like right now? Feel free to take out your phones. Everything's on the phone these days. If you want to write your to-do list as I'm speaking, go for it. Or even something further, is there someone that you can connect with? Even like, and especially if you're feeling like, man, this is just a week that'll never end. I'm feeling like poop. Well, how can you just create something to genuinely connect with somebody? Is it a former teacher, coach, mentor, someone who meant a lot to you? Just say, hey, Bob. In this scenario, I have a friend named Bob. Hey, I never told you, but you were there for me when times were tough, and I really appreciate that. You mean a lot to me. Or just texting your folks, hey, Mom, Dad, just text and say hello, I love you. So what does that look like for you? Everyone's got those unique abilities, but what does that look like to create that order? And so there's just so many ways to do that. And I think it's a very powerful, a very positive thing that we have this ability to create, even if we're in a place of chaos. So we are creators of the things around us, the physical things, but also our mental state. So what can you create to connect with someone? Is there a way to generate a feeling of gratitude, appreciation, love, kindness? Create that, use that to connect with somebody. That's going to then get reflected back to you, and that's going to get reflected back onto the whole world. And that's symmetry to me. Thank you.